Here's the issue. Of the 32 coaches in the NFL last year, Kevin Stefanski finished last. He was the only C- on the list. You go through Dan Campbell, Dan Quinn, Sean McVay. These are the other head coaches in the league. Kevin Stefanski was at the bottom. Now, I like Kevin, but that just tells you one of the reasons why the Browns fired Kevin Stefanski is that his players did not like him.
Let me ask you something real quick. If you genuinely loved someone, if you genuinely believed in them, would you need a bad report card to remind you to say their name? Because that's exactly what happened here. Kevin Stefanski, the man who just got voted the worst head coach in the entire National Football League by his own players, suddenly can't stop talking about Shedeur Sanders, suddenly full of love and praise, suddenly rooting for the kid. Where was all this love when it actually mattered?
Shedeur gets sacked this preseason because he didn't want him to start. What was up with that? Why'd you do that?
I will say this. I love Shedeur. I loved coaching him, seriously. He's got the right makeup for this game. He was wired the right way. I wish that we won more, obviously, but if you saw how he played down the stretch, I mean, he's a young player that's getting better. I'm not coaching him anymore, so I know I have to be careful about talking about other players, but I am rooting for him.
You can't say anything bad about Shedeur because what's the point of that? That's just gasoline on a fire. That makes no sense. So I'm going to leave that part of it open to the understanding that everybody knows and recognizes he can't say and would not say anything bad about Shedeur. And if he just he says something nice here, then everyone.
Now, at this point, man, I don't think no other negative narrative should come out about Shedeur. But you know how these media people play it. Guys, get down in the comment section. Let me know y'all thoughts about this one, man. Make sure y'all keep them bells on. I will be back with more content.
All right, let me lay this out properly because people need to understand the full picture here, not just the headlines, the full picture. We just got the NFL Players Association report cards. These are grades that players themselves give their coaches. And out of 32 head coaches in the entire National Football League, the greatest football league on this planet, Kevin Stefanski finished dead last. A C-, the only C- on the entire list. Dan Campbell got a solid grade. Dan Quinn got a solid grade. Sean McVay got a solid grade. Every single coach in the league graded higher than Kevin Stefanski. And what does that tell you? It tells you that the locker room was broken. It tells you that the players had lost faith in their leader. It tells you that everything people were saying during the season, everything that a lot of people called crazy and dramatic and made up, was actually the truth the whole time. The players spoke loudly. Now here's where it gets interesting. Here's where the story takes a turn that I personally cannot let slide. A few hours after that report card drops, a few hours after the whole football world is talking about how his own players rated him the worst coach in the league, Kevin Stefanski goes and does an interview. And what does he talk about? Who does he bring up? Shedeur Sanders. He says, and I'm going to read this to you directly so there's no confusion, "I love Shedeur. I love coaching him. Seriously, he's got the right makeup for this game. He was wired the right way. I wish that we won more, obviously, but if you saw how he played down the stretch, he's a young player that is getting better, and I'm rooting for him." Now, I want you to sit with that for a second. Really sit with it. This man is rooting for Shedeur Sanders. This man loves Shedeur Sanders. This man thinks Shedeur has the right makeup, the right wiring, all of that. But when it was time to actually show that love, when it was time to actually put it into action on a football field, this same man benched him. This same man went on a month-long stretch where he could barely say the kid's name in press conferences. This same man made decisions that left Shedeur on the sideline watching games that Shedeur could have helped win.
I feel like that was very much the truth. There was a bunch of locker room drama. The players wanted Shedeur Sanders to play. They never wanted Dylan Gabriel, and they never wanted Joe Flacco. to see the night of day. Now, for whatever reason, Kevin Stefanski took it upon himself to not play Shedeur. Now, obviously, when Shedeur ultimately did play, guess what? They started winning football games. Everything started looking on the up and up.
You don't bench someone you believe in, period. And this is the part that really gets me fired up, because the history is right there. Nobody forgot. The internet doesn't forget. The fans don't forget. We don't forget. There was a period, a very real, documented, painfully obvious period, where Kevin Stefanski refused to acknowledge Shedeur Sanders the way a head coach should acknowledge his quarterback. Reporters would ask about him, and Stefanski would give these carefully crafted non-answers, these cold, distant, calculated responses, like Shedeur was a liability instead of an asset. Meanwhile, the players in that locker room reportedly wanted Shedeur to play. Not Dylan Gabriel, not Joe Flacco making some kind of nostalgia comeback. They wanted Shedeur because they could see it. The players could see the talent. They could see the fight in that young man. And they were being overruled by a coaching staff that clearly had a different agenda. And when Shedeur finally did get his opportunities, the Browns started winning. Momentum started building. The energy in that building completely changed. Everybody who watched it saw it happen in real time. So now, after all of that, after all the drama, after getting fired, after getting the worst coach rating in the entire NFL from his own players, now Kevin Stefanski loves Shedeur. Now he's rooting for him. Now he has all the kind words ready. Convenient timing, Kevin. Real convenient. Here's what I think is actually happening, and I'm going to be real with you because that's what we do on this channel. Kevin Stefanski needs relevance right now. He needs clicks. He needs people to care about what he has to say. He just got publicly humiliated by the very players he coached. The NFL world is talking about how his locker room fell apart. His legacy with the Cleveland Browns is going to be defined in large part by what happened with Shedeur Sanders. And Shedeur is a name that gets attention. Shedeur is a name that drives traffic. Shedeur Sanders is one of the most talked about young quarterbacks heading into this upcoming season, and Kevin Stefanski knows that attaching himself to that conversation, even now, even after being fired, keeps him in the news cycle. That's not love, that's strategy.
A lot of us felt that it was, even in its infancy, right?
It was second only to Eric Wedge.
God, we could see the writing on the wall, couldn't we?
So that was one clip from 92 The Fan. Now there is another clip too that ESPN Cleveland did this morning, kind of reacting to this. And I want to share that with y'all. Let's blow this up and let's check it out.
Okay. C-. Kind. Here's the issue.
Real love looks different. Real love from a coach looks like making sure your young quarterback gets the reps he needs. Real love looks like protecting him publicly, even when the outside noise gets loud. Real love looks like saying his name with conviction when reporters put a microphone in your face during the actual season, not after you're gone. Baker Mayfield had issues with Stefanski too, and Baker eventually came out and spoke his truth publicly. Shedeur hasn't said a word, not one negative word about Kevin Stefanski. And that right there tells you everything about the character of that young man. Shedeur is focused. Shedeur is locked in. Shedeur doesn't need to address Kevin Stefanski because Kevin Stefanski is yesterday's news. And while all this Stefanski drama is swirling around, while people are debating ratings and interviews and locker room politics, you know what Shedeur Sanders was doing today? He pulled up to a school. He went to visit kids. He brought pizzas for all the boys and girls, and he stood in front of those children and told them to get good grades, told them to listen to their teachers, listen to their parents, stay focused, and take every opportunity they get. He stood in that room and he poured into those kids the same way people poured into him. No cameras forced him to be there. No PR team scripted what he was going to say. He showed up because that's who he is, and that's why the universe keeps blessing this young man. That's why the story of Shedeur Sanders is far from over. In fact, it feels like it's just getting started. While his former coach is out here doing interviews chasing relevance, Shedeur is out here building something real, on the field, in the community, in the culture. That's legacy work. That's the difference between a person who talks about values and a person who actually lives them. The NFL Players Association report cards, dropping with Stefanski at the bottom, is not just a story about one coach and one player. It's a story about accountability. It's a story about what happens when leadership fails. Those players graded every single coach in the league. They had 32 options, and they put Kevin Stefanski at the very bottom. That means the issues were real. The drama was real. The disconnect was real. Everything that people were calling fake and exaggerated during the season, it was real. And for everyone who spent months telling people they were wrong, telling people they were just Shedeur fans making noise, telling people there was no locker room issue, the players themselves just handed you the answer. The players voted. The numbers don't lie. So here's where we land today. Kevin Stefanski got the worst coaching grade in the NFL from his own players. Kevin Stefanski went and gave a warm interview about Shedeur Sanders hours later, the same young man he couldn't say 2 words about for a month during the actual season. Shedeur Sanders said nothing. Shedeur Sanders went to a school and talked to kids about staying focused and getting good grades. One man is trying to rewrite history. The other man is out here writing the next chapter. I know which one I'm watching. I know which one I'm rooting for. Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Do you buy what Stefanski is selling, or is this exactly what it looks like? Let me know. Hit that like button if you've been riding with Shedeur from day one. Subscribe if you want the real stories told the real way. Until next time, shake the hate off. We out.